In this video, we want to look at how do I expose some of the internals of the bindable element web component to external components that use it. So to demonstrate this, in our case, we are going to add a standard getter and setter. So this is a standard JavaScript property that has a getter that will get me the value and a setter that will set the value. And I want to expose this first name to anything outside of the component to be able to use it. So I want to be able to get the first name, and I want to be able to go and set the first name. Now, because first name is part of our binding context and we use set property to get the value, we can use the same mechanism to fetch the data and expose it to things external from the component, and the same way to set it if we get a new value internally. Let's quickly add some code here. So we can say return, because we're getting the value, this.get property first name. And when we set the value, setters generally have a new value parameter, and we can just use that to pass on to our set value. So we can say this.set property first name, and then the new value that gets passed on to us via the mechanism. So we're not doing anything weird here. We're using the standard binding get and set property. We're using the standard JavaScript property getters and setters. Let's go have a look at the view to see how we can use this. So here's our view. Let's go and get that component of us quickly. So I'm just going to right click on this and say set as global variable. This allows me to access that component in the DevTools programmatically. And the first thing that I want to do is just go and get the first name. So I can say temp1 dot first name, and you can see it returns me the value John. I can change this value here to, let's say, something completely different. Okay, and I can do the same, and then lo and behold, there's my value. I can also change it, so I can say temp1 dot first name equals, and we'll say it is Jane, and when I press enter here, you'll see that it updated it as Jane over here. So what happened here? When I requested the first name by using temp1.firstName, it used the getter. The getter then got the property and returned that value back to us. When I set the first name, it used the first name setter. It passed in the new value, in this case Jane, to it, and it used the set property for the first name and passed that value back on. The set property then kicked off the binding mechanisms to go and update the UI. So this is a really nice way to expose certain parts of your component to external entities. The important thing is not to go and get ballistic around this and just add this for every property. You really only want to do this for things that you want to expose to external entities, components, functions, etc. But when you need it, very useful.